Hi everyone, welcome back, and in this video we are now going to set up our enemy so that he will basically have a bit of simple AI. He's going to be able to move around, he'll be able to move towards the enemy, and he will also always be looking at the enemy. At the player, my bad. So for this we need to uScript up, so we're going to go to Tools, Detox Studios and uScript Editor. And from here, we're going to make sure we're inside our enemy graph. If you're not, just select your enemy script in here. So enemy script's open, and of course it is a blank script. That's fine. So in empty space, we're just going to type in the global update, or up here at the top left, sorry. Just going to type in global, and click in the global update function. This means that on every updated frame, something's going to happen. The first thing we'll do is we'll actually just sort out the look at function. One other thing I'm going to do is under instance, I'm just going to right click, add a variable, and just choose owner game object and just plug that in so that this instance is actually on the enemy itself. So now we're going to, in the search bar, we're just going to type in a function called look at. This basically means that an object will, or a game object, will constantly be looking at another game object or a focus. It can also focus on a transform or a vector 3 position. So we're just going to plug this in, and here we have the look at. And what we're going to do is we're just going to drag in the on update. So now this is plugged up. We now need a target. So what is actually going to be looking at a focus point? So of course our target is going to be our owner. So we're just going to drag the target into here, so it's sharing the same owner variable. So that means that the look at is being applied to the itself. So the enemy itself is using this look at function. Now the focus itself is actually the an object that it needs to look at. So what we're going to do is we're just going to find our player, this guy here, and we're just literally just going to drag him in like so. We're going to place this in as a game object, I believe. And under focus we just plug that up, and there we go. So the enemy should always be looking at the player. Under seconds, I'm just going to turn that off because we're not going to have that for the time being. Now what's really important is that we go file and save, and everything we do, we just test this. Really important that you test your work as you go along to reduce the amount of bugs. So we're just going to drag in our enemy for the time being. And on the position X, I'm just going to type in 0 because our pivot point was in the center, and I'm just going to click on play. And so I should be able to look around, walk around, and the enemy is constantly looking at you. Creepy in one respect. So there we go. At the moment we can shoot him and our bullets collide off him, but it's not really doing much. So now we're going to set up, let's see, before we actually do the bullets, that's actually for a different lesson. Now we're going to actually make the enemy kind of follow the player wherever he goes. In these types of dual stick shooter games, the enemy automatically pretty much comes at you immediately, at different speeds depending on difficulty. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back into uScript, we're going to go Tools, uScript Editor. And the first thing we need to do is we need to get the position of our player. So to do this, we're going to use a node called getPosition from transform. So you see it right here, getPosition from a transform. We're also going to plug this excuse me, into our update function. So every frame, it's getting the position of our player. So it's always up to date in where our player is. Now, for the target, we just need to use our player. Now we could just do that. Oh, no we can't. Apologies. So what we're going to do is, this is actually a transform value as opposed to a game object. So what we need to do is we just need to drag our player in again, and instead of a game object we just need to click on transform instead. Notice that the color is slightly different. Just going to plug that in. So it's actually getting the transform values. And these transform values is position, rotation and scale, but this is just a position, so it's only going to take the X, Y and Z values. Now, under position, we need to now convert this data, or the data, sorry, into a vector 3. So to do this, we're just going to right click an empty space. We're going to add a new variable, blank piece of data, and we're going to choose a vector3 object. So here's our blank piece of data. So it's taken on every frame, it's getting the position of our player and outputting that to 3 numbers. These 3 numbers are going to be whatever this is, and whatever this is at every frame. Then the next thing we need to do is we need to use another node, and it's quite easy in terms of naming. It's quite well named. It's called move to location fixed. Okay, so this is going to move a game object to a vector3 location. So you can kind of guess what's going to happen here. The target is going to be itself, the enemy. The end location is going to be this guy, because this is the coordinates of our player. And then we also have an option called speed. How quick does the enemy actually move to the player? So we're just going to plug that into here. Under target, we just need to, we can drag that over to there, although it tends to get a wee bit messy. So we can just right click and add another variable in, owner, because the owner of this script belongs to the enemy. The script's plugged into the enemy, so this is the owner game object. The end location is our vector3. For speed, we're just going to click on the node and go to speed and type in about 2. Let me just see speed. This is the amount of units per second your object will move. So the bigger the value, the quicker, the more units he will move per second. Okay, so with that is us set up, and of course, like I said earlier, everything we do we need to test. I just kind of like to reorganize this, make it look nice and clean. It's really nice to have clean looking code or visual code so you don't kind of get lost. Okay, so we're going to go file and save, let that save, and with that we're going to click on X, and we're just going to test this with our player, or with our enemy and player in there, because at the moment we haven't actually tackled the enemy spawning just yet. So now we're playing, and you can see that our enemy is now moving. If we start to run, he will start chasing us. Now because this is the kind of starting off enemy, he's very slow, which is fine. In terms of prototype, we could then start to talk about enemies that move really quick. You basically can't outrun them, so then you have to kind of move backwards and shoot at them. It's all about the different types of enemies we would want to implement into this. Or another way of balancing the game, or another mechanic, so to speak. We could have an enemy such as the boss enemy who would have lots of hit points, lots of health, but very slow moving. So it's all about getting the correct balance. Now, what we can also do in Unity, this isn't really anything to do with enemies, but just a little bonus for you, as I haven't really explained it. At any point in the game, we can actually pause it by clicking on the pause button at the top. With the pause button, your view just remains the same. And we can now, in our scene view, we can actually look around our live game. Now if you want to turn it off, you can click play and that will stop the game, or you can click pause to resume. So I'm just going to shoot a few bullets and I'm going to hit pause, and we can actually see a paused view of our game. I can see that these are our little prefabs that we created, or that the game is creating via the player script. We can see that this is our enemy, and currently his script is telling him to follow the player, so on and so forth. If we click on play, it then stops the game. So that's it. Very easily we have managed to set up player or enemy lookout using this node here. The target is itself, and the focus is always on the player, so it's always looking at the player. And then this guy here is getting the position of our player, converting that into a vector3, and then using this node called move location fixed means that itself is always moving towards this coordinate, which is the player, at a speed of 2 units per second. So that's it, guys. I shall see you in the next lesson. Thank you.